Netflix's Chambers Season 1 Review IGN. This is an almost spoiler-free review of Netflix's new teen horror series Chambers, all 10 episodes of which are streaming on Netflix. Netflix has been delving into the young adult programming landscape for a while now, but with its new horror series Chambers, they managed to deliver something strange and unique but ultimately uneven. Whilst the slow set in the sprawling landscape of Arizona, Chambers centers on a teenage girl, Sasha, Sivan Allira Rose, who suffers an unexpected heart attack during a moment of intimacy with her boyfriend. She almost died. Elevated horror is a loaded term, but it feels like the show is attempting to bring the aesthetic and oral experience that's often connected to those films which get tarred with the elevated horror brush to the small screen. There's a mix of the problem comes once the setup has been achieved and you realize that Chambers still has 8 more episodes to go. The show is definite, teenagehood is ripe for horror and explorations of it, and the body horror-drenched setup seems to hint at the potential for an interesting and analogous tale. However, Rose is a dynamic and engaging lead even as the show pushes her into more and more ridiculous situations. Chambers is ambitious. Those who find themselves intrigued enough to stick it out for the full 10 episodes will be rewarded with one of the show's best and weirdest episodes, which offers up a hook that'll likely catch even the most skeptical of viewers. Though, it's great that Netflix is using its platform and budget to create shows like Chambers. Even if the finished Chambers could have been better, but it does fill an interesting gap in the teen market, authentic storytelling that's experimental and rough around the edges with a horror bent. Though it's not going, we encourage you to read our updated end.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking, the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,